What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. We're back, guys, not just with a 2019 countdown, but another decade top 10. Today I'm going to give you guys my favorite animated movies of the decade. I said favorite, not necessarily the best or the highest of quality. There are going to be some in here, and you're going to look at your computer screen or your phone screen, and you're going to say, Austin, what are you doing? But you know what? These are the ones that mean the most to me. These are the ones that have aged the best. I went back and I looked at some of my choices, and I ended up moving some movies. Reflection is a very interesting thing. It allows you to go back and see which ones made the impact and stuck with you through all of these years or all of these months. We'll see what ends up on this list. Of course, I need you guys in the comments. What is your favorite animated movie of the decade? If you have a top 10, drop that. And if you enjoy these kinds of decade countdowns, tune back in, come back, hit that thumbs up on this video. We will definitely do more if you guys want more. But let's get into the honorable mentions at first. I have some honorable mentions that it hurt me to leave off of this list, and these aren't the only honorable mentions, but these are the ones that I want to bring up. Incredibles 2, that's right, I'm a fan of the sequel. Isle of Dogs, which actually came very close to making this list. Kubo in the Two Strings, and I do want to give a shout out to a movie that did not come out, or two movies that did not come out in theaters, The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. Two of the best DC animated movies I've ever seen. I came very close to putting that in my top 10 as well, but my top 10 is comprised of movies that you can probably anticipate, and maybe one or two that you can't. So at number 10, I'm doing it again. I've done it 3 lists in a row. I'm going to keep cheating, and I find this kind of fun, having a tie at number 10. But honestly, guys, I mean, these are two movies that I just couldn't choose between, and they're both very similar in their own right. They're both sequels, not direct sequels. Well, one is, and we'll talk about that first. That is How to Train Your Dragon 2. Yeah, this is a movie that came out, and I was looking forward to it because I absolutely love the movie. But it blew me away because of the scale and the fact that they can handle something, a storyline so epic as this one, and do it in a way that really enhanced the source material, enhanced the voice performances. I love everything about this franchise. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is a proper sequel, and one that really captures the magic of the first. And how often can you say that about a sequel in general? Not very often. But speaking of sequels, we're talking the 4th sequel in the Toy Story franchise. That is my other number 10. I mean, it's kind of a top 11, but whatever. This is neck and neck with How to Train Your Dragon 2 for me, just because, in my opinion, Toy Story 4 did capture the magic. I know a lot of people want to argue that point. I feel like I'm the only one of my close friend group that loves this movie, whereas they liked this movie but had issues. And not gonna lie to you guys, going back and watching it for a second time, I did lower my score just a bit because I noticed some things that I didn't necessarily love, maybe what they do with Buzz's storyline and how some of the characters aren't as prominent, but I still love the movie for what it is. It's a send-off to the character of Woody, and it does a beautiful job with beautiful animation. I thought it was paced very well. Randy Newman's music is fantastic. Overall, I think the movie works very, very well, and it's one that that's going to stick with me from this year for sure. Coming in at number 9, another Pixar film, that is Coco. Coco is glorious. It was one of my favorite movies, probably top 15, 20 of that year. It is, I think, my brother's favorite movie of that year, at least in his top 5. I know so many people that love Coco, and not just because it represents that heritage very well, but really because it handles something like Day of the Dead that is close to so many hearts out there. It handles it with care, with joy. The humor is great. The little side characters. The dog is hilarious. But I love the villain storyline, how everything hits close to home. And then at the end of the movie, well, why is it called Coco? Yeah, you find out while you're shedding tears, man. Coco is one that hit me really hard, and it was very difficult not putting this at number 8 because this is more emotional than my number 8. My number 8 is just so much daggone fun, I can't help but to put it on this list, and that is WreckIt Ralph, the first one. Now, I really enjoyed Ralph Breaks the Internet. I gave it a really good score. It's probably in my top 25 of the decade, but if we're doing top 10, I have to put the first in there because I love the voice acting in this movie just as much as I do any other movie on this list. John C. Reilly as this character is perfect. I mean perfect. And he's supported so well by everyone. This is a story of hope. This is a story of what it means to be a hero, to come out of your shell as this villain and try your best to make your own way instead of having your way be made for you. And I love how all of those things come together, create a beautiful story. And oh yeah, like I said, it's so funny. It's so entertaining. The first Wreck-It Ralph is one of the best modern Disney movies, but it's not my favorite. Now, it was for a while, but one passed it because I just can't stop watching Moana. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's where I just have so much fun going back and revisiting the music, whether it's The Rock's performance, whether it's just the fact that this girl, this wonderful voice actress that I'm so glad that they discovered, just wants to make her own way. Sounds similar to Wreck-It Ralph, but it is one that really sticks with you emotionally, and I can sing the songs right now, all of them, every single one. They are so ridiculously memorable. The fact that they got Lin-Manuel Miranda to help out with the music is just, it's the best call, and the movie swells with emotion towards the end, and the visuals are grand. They were fantastic, and I love the way that Moana is paced. This and Wreck-It Ralph, very, very close, but I have to just slightly go with Moana, and then slightly over that is one that it didn't take everyone a long time to come around on it. I feel like I'm the only one on planet Earth that when Inside Out first came out, I didn't have it in my top 10 of that year. Now, I had it right outside the top 10. But I'm like, yeah, I think it's really, really great, and I love it, but it's not like one of the best animated movies of the decade. And you go back and you watch it again, and you think about it, and you reflect what it did for animation, how it kind of brought Pixar back. They were doing a lot of sequels, and this was the original movie that really sparked what they continued to do throughout the 2010s. And I go back and I look at all those things, and I'm like, yeah, Inside Out deserves to be in my top 10, and it's a pretty great movie, and I actually moved it up my Pixar list. I mean, I was just thinking about it and what it did, and I talked about a fantastic voice cast a while ago. This is probably the best voice cast because every actor and actress captures their character. I mean, the characters are literal emotions, right? So you have to cast someone who captures those emotions perfectly, and I think everyone was so spot on, and it really is the ultimate coming-of-age story. It really is a story that means a lot to so many kids, and I apologize for not putting it higher on the list, but these 5 movies above it, they're just, they mean so much to me in different ways, right? Because if we think about it, the 2010s, I mean, I flash all the way back. I was a junior in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, so the beginning of this decade was really like Austin coming of age. So the movies on this list, it's less like quality and more kind of nostalgia and what it means to me personally. But if we're talking both things like nostalgia and quality and something that is perfect for kids to grow up with, I think Inside Out has all of it. Now, this is probably ridiculous, putting the Lego Movie over Inside Out. And I know a lot of people are probably going to get on to me for that, saying, Austin, what are you doing? Listen, I'll admit, Inside Out is probably a better movie than the Lego Movie, but they're very close, honestly, because the Lego Movie, there is this level of emotion in there, but the pace and the style and the humor and just the amount of humor that works so well in this movie, and the fact that you can watch a movie with such an upbeat pace, and I'm not joking, the first time I watched the Lego Movie, I'm sitting back going, I can't keep up. It's just so much. A lot's happening on screen. Everything's moving so quick. But you go back and you watch it again and again and again, and it just stood out as one of the most fantastic experiences you could possibly have with an animated movie, not just of that year, but for me, of the decade. The Lego Movie does everything right. It captures the magic that it needed to capture. The voice cast is fantastic. Chris Pratt is great as this main hero. The ending is emotional. When they went to live action, I know they've replicated that formula so many times since with the sequel, and Playmobil just did it. That's not on this list. Maybe we should do a worst of the decade. Regardless, the Lego Movie, it started a trend of things that just could not quite keep up with that first film. And the first one is so good and so glorious and so much fun. And I had a great time with it. It's number 5 on my list of favorites, not list of best quality, even though I would put it up there as well. Coming in at number 4, I have to put it at number 4 because what it did, the franchise that it started, and the impact that the franchise had on everyone, and just the fact that it's a really great movie, and that's the first How to Train Your Dragon. Clearly, I am the biggest fan of the first film. Now, How to Train Your Dragon 3 is also something I could have thrown on the honorable mentions. It's easily in my top 25 of the decade, and Clearly, I love the second one. But the first one is the one that really nailed it for me. It is the perfect balance, and I feel like I'm going to say that for all of these movies, of all of the things that you need for an animated film. Gorgeous animation, great voice cast. Here's the best part about this movie, though. You have a great soundtrack for Moana. You have a great score for How to Train Your Dragon. This is one of the most epic and incredible animated scores I have ever heard. I think Toothless is a character that's going to stick with and Hiccup, both of them, their relationship. And it's the guy and his dog storyline. It's one of the reasons why I like E.T. and Iron Giant as much as I do, because it's the same storyline followed, but in this film, you have something that you don't have in all of those other movies, and it's something that really feels like a Game of Thrones-esque vibe. It captures that medieval magic. Didn't get to see it in theaters first time, which is interesting. I actually saw this on DVD at my uncle's house. I'll never forget that. It was really great, though, and I loved everything about it. Next up, at number 3, a movie that I did not watch until this year. That is Your Name. Listen, I'll be honest. I haven't watched as many anime movies as I needed to this decade. Like, obviously, your Howl's Moving Castles, your Princess Mononoke's, your Spirited Aways, which is one of my favorite animated films of all time. Those are all from the decade prior, obviously. Your Name is one of the few that I've watched from this decade, and let me tell you, I have really been slacking. Although this is the one that everyone says is the best, and I saw that and I'm just like, okay. You know, I didn't get a chance to watch it that year, and it came out, and I'm just like, all right, it looks interesting. I think the animation is gorgeous. We'll just see what it holds. And this movie blew me away in the best way possible. Obviously, some of the best animation you will ever see. I'm not kidding. The animation is absolutely gorgeous, but this storyline of a guy's conscience, his essence going into this girl's body, and the girls going into his body, trying to figure out why this is happening, where each other is, finding each other, seeking each other, and at the same time, finding yourself. And the way that it's paced and the transitions from one character to the other and the way that they tell the story, and then what happens in the third act, which caught me completely off guard. It is truly one of the most incredible things I have ever witnessed. And if we're talking quality, I would say this is probably the best quality animation on this list. I would definitely put it up there with, an Inside Out, and then my number 1, number 2, obviously you can put it up there. But this is one that if you guys haven't seen it, I rented it on Amazon. I encourage you to check it out. You can do subbing, dubbing, whatever, doesn't matter. Watch Your Name. It is worth every second. My number 2, we're going back to nostalgia. We're going back to a franchise that I grew up with. We're going back to something that really just impacted me in the best way possible. I remember crying in the theater when I saw it all the way back in 2010, the first movie of this decade. I believe it's also the first movie I saw in IMAX, so that was interesting. This is Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 somehow brought back this franchise that we thought was long gone, and did it. They did it. They capped off the trilogy in a perfect way, which still is a trilogy. I see Toy Story 4 as, I guess another movie in the franchise, but it's more of a spin-off in a way. But Toy Story 3, man, it really is the perfect ending to what this has been building up to for all of these years. The storyline of Andy, the storyline of his toys, finding each other, finding their way. Woody, once again, lost a bit. Buzz doesn't even know who he is throughout most of this movie. I mean, there's so many storylines, so many grand, great storylines that are fantastic. I think Lotso is a brilliant villain. The fact that we thought they were all going to die for about 30 seconds really broke my heart. I mean, this is one that, like I said, made me cry in the theater. I'll never forget the experience. Toy Story 3. How the heck is it not number 1? Well, here's the thing. I had to make my number 1 something that really combines everything I love about movies. I love animation. I love brilliant animation. I love superheroes. You guys can see where I'm going with this. I love Spider-Man. What movies? What movie's number 1, Austin? Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. Listen, I know I'm going to be one of the few people on the face of the earth to put this at number 1 over a Your Name, over a Toy Story 3, and I can see it now going back to my comic book movies of the decade list last week. I had some comments in there saying, What? What? And I'm sure it'll be the same case here, but once again, these are my favorites. And after thinking about it and pondering upon it, I mean, what Spiderverse did, not just for animation, but for superhero films, this transcends animation. And I still know, I say that, but I still know people that haven't watched it because it's an animated movie. I have people in my family, not to call them out, but they're just like, I'm not going to watch it. It's an animated movie. I'm just like, guys, what are you doing? You're missing out on one of the best experiences you can possibly have, especially if you're like me and you're a big comic book fan. Hey, look, it's Miles Morales. Shout out to my little cousin who bought me this. He knows how big of a fan I am. But it's hard to quantify the impact this movie had on me, from the detailed animation, I talked about this in my comic book movies list, to just the way that it stuck with me, made me want to go back and revisit it. I've revisited it multiple times. We were walking out of the theater, and my friend, who I took with me to the early screening, he said, Austin, I might like that better than Infinity War. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Do I like this better than... I think I do. And by a hair, it is my number one. But my top three: Your Name, Toy Story 3, Spiderverse, heck, How to Train Your Dragon, Lego Movie, Inside Out, Moana, WreckIt Ralph, Coco, Toy Story 4, How to Train Your Dragon 2. So many great animated movies this decade. This decade has been a fantastic, flourishing decade full of incredible things in that world that we have never seen before. I want to know from you guys, did I leave something out? Did I miss something? I love my Zootopias. I love my Tangleds. Heck, I love my Rangos. I love my Despicable Me's. These are all movies that came close to getting in that honorable mention category, but ones I just had to leave off because there are so many glorious ones to choose from. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, if you enjoy it, hit that thumbs up. Be sure to leave your comments. I want some discussion down below. Are you upset that Playmobil did not make it? Because, you know, that and the Emoji Movie, man, they're fighting for that last spot. You guys are the best. I'll see you very soon with another countdown or a review or something like that.